want to foul and you try to foul, but I'm fine with what they did in the backcourt.
Hartenstein was the guy. He had the ball only for a split second. He did get rid of it quick. That's where maybe Vando's got to just kind of hammer him and send him to the line.
Yeah, I also think, you know, in the backcourt, I thought the AD and Shooter trap should have been a little harder. Shooter let him out. When you had him right there with AD, you gotta lock him in and don't let him pick it up. That was a big trap right here. I think. Is this it?
Okay. Yeah, it's got to be harder.
So right here, when Shooter goes over, you gotta lock him in right there.
Yeah.
And you let him out, but right here, you're right. You got to foul him immediately. And I think it was just maybe they thought they were fouling and referees were going to call it. But yeah, that was a lot of time that ran off the clock. A lot of time they could have used and set it up after they were down 4 instead of 5 seconds. It would have been nice to have like 12 or 11 seconds, and so that's something they'll regret.
And if you remember, because we talked about it when we were watching, when AD has that dunk and they're down 4, there's 39 seconds left. Dennis is doing a nice job of pressuring the ball. He almost gets an 8-second count. He kind of goes in for that reach, and now that clock goes back to 24. That was also an opportunity for someone to maybe come trapping. You're going to get that call.
Yeah. In situations like that, a lot of teams would tell someone like Vando, who's the most athletic guy who can cover a lot of ground, to say if he turns him once and turns him twice, you run at him, try to trap him, because a lot of times guys aren't expecting you to do that. And when you trap, you're either going to cause a turnover or cause a timeout. So they missed the opportunity there also.
Yeah, the Lakers struggled from the free throw line, just 10 of 17. Isaiah Hartenstein caused all kinds of problems for AD and everyone else tonight inside that paint. D'Lo really had that great game. He had a season-high 33. But outside of that, guys, no one really stood out to me, Big Game James.
No, I mean, they had opportunities.
Yeah.
A couple turnovers. They missed several free throws that could have given them a little bit of momentum, maybe get the lead down to maybe 5 or 6, but they missed those and then just could not execute down the stretch to get, good shots. I thought they did a good job on AD, playing him physical, not allowing him to get his positions, and no one really else had efficiency to get some buckets. We never could get any offensive rebounds. We were like one and done a lot, and we suffered in that department too. When AD's out of the game, they have to rebound collectively on both ends, and that didn't happen either.
Yeah, you think about how close this score is, and the Lakers were 0 for 5 in the fourth quarter from 3. We also showed you in the pregame show the Lakers are the #1 fourth-quarter scoring team in the league. That was not the case tonight, Rob. And yes, James, you are right. 12 offensive rebounds. It sure seemed like a lot more for New York. It resulted in 14 points. But they did out-rebound the Lakers by 9, and those were a big 9.
Yeah, I think what we looked at was a couple of possessions where they got 4 offensive rebounds in one possession, so it looked like a lot. But I think also we have to look at what the killer bees did. Beasley and Brown, they were 4 for, they was 2 for 7, 2 for 15 from 3.
Yeah.
And at some point, I know you're on this team to shoot threes. You got to put it on the floor and go to the rack. You need to get buckets, and I think that's one of the things that kind of hurt the Lakers in the sense that those guys kept jacking up threes and not making them, especially when you got a guy like AD who has the advantage. It's, to me, when you got situations like this and you're not knocking down threes, the one shot that Beasley got that was an easy 3 was when they kicked it to him after a double team. He was wide open. Yeah. Take the easy shots, and that's where you have to get AD in the post and get that double team, and then he kicks it out.
Yeah, because frankly, the bench did their job in terms of scoring, 43 points to help get the win. But you're right, really struggled from 3, especially with Beasley and Brown. I do want to talk about the New York Knicks. They had won 9 in a row. Then they lost 3 in a row. They're sitting in that 6th spot in the Eastern Conference standings. They are desperate for a win as well, and they just seem to attack the Lakers. Listen, it was Julius Randle in the first half, 25 of his 33, and then you have R.J. Barrett, of all people, 20 of his 30 big game in the second half, and they just got to the rack at will.
Yeah, that was really it. Those 2 players.
That's it.
Quickly 15. The bench, not really a factor, but it was when they went to work. Randall got his, when they had that, big second quarter. And then Barrett hit those when the Lakers were trying to make their comeback. They just couldn't, stop his momentum. Couldn't stop him from going left. And it was his game in the second quarter. And when you combine that with extra possessions, a couple of turnovers by the Lakers, and missed free throws, it all adds up. They never could get close enough right there within striking distance to make a difference. They always seem to have an answer with either Barrett, an extra possession, or, a Lakers not capitalizing on their free throws.
Yeah, Barrett got to the paint a lot. Yeah. He was 12 for 27, not a good shooting percentage.
He was 1 for 8 from 3. And they kept running him off the line and letting him get to the rack. Yeah, just close out and let him shoot that.
Yeah, until he hits 2 threes, like you said. Let him shoot the 3. The only one he made was a shot clock, end of a shot clock.
Yeah.
He just jacked it up and it went in. So you got to, and I think that's when the coaching staff comes into effect, like, let him make sure, keep him from driving. There's certain things like that you have to, remind the players. You might tell them at the beginning of the game or beginning of the quarter, you should be yelling from the sideline, make him a shooter. But he kept getting to the rack, and that's when he got hot.
Told you in the pregame show, 411 days since the Lakers have been 500. I thought today was going to be the day. They did not get the memo to not ruin Robert Horry's big weekend. He had a Laker win on Friday that he worked. His son won a state championship on Saturday. His Alabama Crimson Tide won the SEC and got the #1 seed. I thought tonight was a lock.
I did too.
Because you don't lose much.
No, I don't.
Guess what?
Dang it.
You lost tonight. Let's hear from what Darvin Ham has to say. He's speaking with the media. You did.
Darvin, what did you think of the Knicks' physicality in that game? And how did you guys feel like you met that consistently enough for you, or were there kind of maybe some common threads with the loss to Minnesota in that way?
Yeah, I thought they were extremely physical, but that's how teams are going to play us. That team is built that way. As a hard-nosed, tough, outstanding coach, and their representation of the way Tibbs is. I mean, we had some unfortunate plays, gave up some untimely offensive rebounds to them, didn't get back in transition. Just, we had our moments in the game as well, where we did things well, but for the most part, a lot of what they did, came, unfortunately, at the expense of us trying to get a stop or trying to keep them off the glass or fouling them. They had some guys step up and make some shots as well. So, it's unfortunate, but again, we don't have time to feel sorry for ourselves. We got to go back and fill our cups up and get ready for this 2-game road trip. Again, being 2 games under 500, 14 left to play, we have time, but we can't waste any more time. We can't waste any more games. And we got to come out with a focus for as much of a 48-minute or however long the game takes to be over. We got to have that focus consistently and throughout.
Darvin, you mentioned that energy and focus and consistency, and it seems like it's mostly been there since the trade deadline, 8-3 before tonight. How is it difficult to sustain and expect to have that every night against teams that are coming to play like that as well? And how do you sustain it? How much do you think that was a factor tonight?
I mean, we're saying we're a playoff team, which we all believe we are. Everyone in the organization, top to bottom, believe this newly assembled group that we have can do big things in the postseason, but we got to get there. We got to do our work, and it's a part of the learning and growing processes. We got to compartmentalize possessions and go possession by possession by possession, and regardless of what happens on any one particular possession, we got to learn how to have a short memory in terms of moving on to the next play, because again, you get disappointed that something didn't go your way, and it continues to spill over into 2 or 3 or 4 more plays. So we'll get better from this. We'll watch what we need to watch on film, talk about the physicality. I mean, we have an ability to play physical as well, and I've seen it firsthand. But we had some guys who normally make shots, didn't make shots tonight. We missed free throws, turned the ball over at some untimely moments. So, again, we'll go back and look at both sides of the ball and look at some of the intangibles and look at the film and try to get better from it.
Darvin, you mentioned the Minnesota game a couple times. You guys reeled off a 3-game winning streak after that and responded really well. How do you kind of ensure that that's the response versus, kind of sitting and dwelling on this or just kind of flipping the page as you were kind of talking about?
I mean, you show it and then you flush it. I mean, you show it to the